Imagine a world where musical expression is no longer limited by technology. The MIDI 2.0 Orchestral Articulation Profile solves a fundamental problem for people who compose using orchestral libraries. Currently, every sample library company uses a different proprietary method for selecting articulations. Some use CC messages, some use proprietary key switches, but there is no standard method for encoding orchestral articulations. MIDI 2.0 solves this problem by embedding articulations directly into the MIDI 2.0 note-on message. With the articulation in the MIDI message itself, you can easily switch between libraries and copy and paste articulations, just as you do with any other MIDI message. When implemented by orchestral sound library developers, it will allow composers to easily switch between different libraries without having to manually remap the articulations. Also, composers can simply copy or layer a MIDI track and assign a different instrument without losing musical integrity and still hear musically equivalent articulations. MIDI 2.0 expanded the note-on message, offering higher resolution and more detailed expression. The Orchestral Articulation Profile uses 5 articulation properties: attribute type, subclass, variation, direction, and string number. There are 8 different attribute types defined in the profile, as well as an area reserved for future expansion and 6 types reserved for library-specific attributes. Let's take a closer look at how subclasses expand the capabilities of each note attribute by looking at the subclasses for staccato and shorts. Here you can see the 4-bit field, which is used to further refine the staccato and shorts attribute field with up to 16 different subclasses. You can see the level of detail that this architecture allows the profile to achieve. Each of the 16 subclasses have a field to allow for 16 variations determined by the sample library creator, creating further refinement and artistic sound design possibilities. Another 2-bit field is used for playing direction, up or down, bow, or left-hand or right-hand strikes. The specification includes detailed mapping guidelines. For example, here are a few of the guidelines for pitch and dynamic gestures. The specification includes guidance on the applicability of the articulation to each musical instrument type. The other messages used in the articulation profile are registered controllers for mute selection and mute amount, and a registered per-note controller for playing position. Mutes can be added to many articulations, so mutes are additive to the articulation defined in the note-on message. Exactly like the articulation attributes, there is room for future expansion and even 6 mute types for manufacturer-specific mutes. The mute amount registered controller can be used to determine the starting value for mutes like a straight mute, which typically doesn't change during the course of a note, or the amount of muting for mutes like Harmon mutes or plungers with a continuously variable amount. The per-note controller can be used for playing position in those instruments where it makes a tonal difference. For example, the violin, which sounds very different when played close to the bridge, sound hole, or neck. Thanks to those who contributed to the Orchestral Articulation Profile, and especially to Chris Stone, who has put together a library that supports the full profile. We believe that this one profile, when adopted by sample library companies, and especially when combined with the open-source MIDI CI helper code being developed by Apple and Steinberg, will revolutionize the way games and films are scored.